Hello, everybody. Welcome. This is my fourth in this video series. This is Certified Management Accountant. We're going to be previewing part 2 of the CMA exam. So the information and opinions in this presentation are those of the author only and not the author, the employers or affiliated organizations, including but not limited to Irvine Valley College and the South Orange County Community College District. The presentation is for educational purposes only and does not constitute any legal or accounting advice whatsoever. The previews shown here are copyright Becker Professional Education. Other articles referenced are the copyright of those owners referenced. So this is part 3. This is we're going to be previewing the Certified Management Accountant part 2 of the exam. And let's go ahead and take a look at this one. So exam is in 2 parts, has to be passed within a 2-month window, scheduled through Prometric. And these are basically the different months. There's a video I made earlier, which I will leave the link to at the very bottom, so that you can go through and find basically out more about this test when you're going through and doing it. Now, you can actually take part 2 before you take part 1. You just have to take both parts within those 2 months. So let's take a look at part 2 of the exam. So again, our friends over at the CMA Exam Academy, they've done a great job here in kind of outlaying, or basically laying out what is basically going to be on the exam. I'm just pulling this from their website. There are 6 topics covered in CMA Part 2. Financial statement analysis, 20%, corporate finance, 20, decision analysis, 25, risk management, 10, investment decision, and then professional ethics, which are 15%. So this is basically part 2. And then over here, I'm going to be previewing with you right now the Becker CMA exam. So as an instructor, they provided me free access to their CMA exam. They are not paying me anything. I am showing the below is just a preview of what's coming out. These materials are copyright Becker Professional Education. This is not my property, but rather a way of giving you a preview so you can see how they have their CMA exam review set up so that you can know if this is the best review course for you. So here we go. So let's go ahead and go over here to Becker. So if you're familiar with how they have their CPA exam set up, we're now going to go look at part 2. And right over here, and as we look at this over here, we've got the very first module. When we look at every single module, right, and we'll just go ahead and have some fun. We've got concept videos. So you can basically, if this is something that's new to you, you can go through and watch about like liquidity ratios. And by the way, if I want to watch it faster or slower, and this is Peter Alento, very, very famous, basically review. Okay, so right over here. And I think that they have some, I can also do captions that are in English. So if I want to basically watch this with captions on, I can absolutely go through and do that. I do know that the CPA exam has it in Chinese. I guess it just hasn't really happened to this part of it yet. So I can watch the videos, right? And again, the amount of time it's going to take you to go through these materials is going to be depending solely on how familiar you are with them, right? Let's just go through, and I'm going to try with you a multiple choice question right over here. And so the following financial indicators measures liquidity and activity, except okay, so which one of these are these, right? So inventory turnover, absolutely yes, this is an activity ratio. Accounts receivable turnover, this is also an activity ratio. It tells us how quickly we're collecting our receivables. Acid test ratio is something which is like basically also known as the quick ratio. It's telling us what our very most liquid assets are, current assets are to total to current liabilities. So the one that doesn't do this is more of, it's going to be the times interest earned, which basically tells us what our coverage is for our interest payments in terms of how much EBITDA are we making before interest expense. So I'm going to go ahead and say this. And they said, wow, this is correct, right? Now, what I like about this, though, is it's saying like both inventory turnover and receivables are activity ratios. So this is really, if you get the wrong answer, it's really kind of helping you go through and do this. I can also come over here and open up the textbook. And this is the 116-page ebook that goes through and relates to this module. So you'll have this ebook over here. In terms of whether or not you have printed materials, I'll have to go through and basically reach out to Becker about this. But I'm assuming that if you buy the full package review course, you'll kind of go through and see what that is. But again, this is a great way in terms of kind of going through, and you'll kind of go through and see how this part works, right? So also over here too, you'll basically, if we go through and we start up one of the essays, we've got scenario 1, and then over here, prepare common size financial statements, vertical analysis for Bachman for the 2 years presented. So when we're going through and doing this, wow, this is again like something I've given on one of my tests. You divide everything here by revenues if we're going to go through and do common sized income statements. And then over here, let's see here. Okay, so asking us to compute book value per share. I have no idea how to do that. I just am not familiar with that sort of term. So here we have, so I'm just going to go ahead and basically Centech manufacturers of test instruments, represents the hourly manufacturing employees. Okay, so again, this is stuff that when you go through, and I haven't done any of the essay questions. I'll probably do a video on it once I go through and do it, just so you can kind of see how it breaks it down. But this is kind of where I kind of go through and look at. So one of the other parts over here is you'll see these little notifications. And one of the things is that what Becker, and I'm assuming the other review courses do, is that, okay, this update over here, digital textbook, so the 1-1 release or provided, okay. So external explanation for class question was updated for minor corrections. So this will tell you like what's kind of happening. Concept videos, it was updated to make the change in the textbook. So this is just kind of giving you a heads up in terms of exam day ready software. And then they're getting rid of the CMA Apple mobile app. Okay, so again, so with going through, and again, no matter what test you take, whether it be bar exam, CPA exam, CMA exam, enrolled agent, you have to use a review course. Do not make the mistake of not using it. And again, as I've said before, I would be going through, I'm not going to recommend one particular one over another. If there's a big gap, I will. But when it comes to this part over here, you just want to go through and take a review course. Make sure you're doing it. If you're not doing it, you're setting yourself up to fail. And that is not something that you want to go through and do. So Becker, so they kind of have like in all their different modules. So this is what they're covering for part 2 of the exam. So these are all the different parts that are going to be going through and getting covered. So it's cost, volume, profit, marginal analysis and pricing, enterprise risk management, part 1 and part 2, professional ethics, business ethics, ethical considerations for management accounting and financial accounting professionals, and then for the organizations, and then simulated exams. So again, with Becker, what they're going to do is they're going to give you these simulated tests, and you'll basically do this a week before the test. And then this is going to be basically the week that you go through and take the test. The one thing I'll say about this is that I would probably, if I'm taking the CMA exam, I would probably move it back 1 week further. And the reason why is that because if you're taking things the week of the exam, you start missing a bunch of questions, it's not going to be good for you mentally. So it's just something that I would kind of share with you, that when you're going through and taking one of these tests, psychology has a huge part in play in it. When you actually get to an exam, you want to start with the questions that are going to be easiest for you first, and then go back to the questions that are going to be the most difficult. With the CMA exam, though, is you have to get at least 50% of the multiple choice questions correct before you can proceed to the next part of the exam. So, and I can also say, I'm kind of guessing that if you're taking a review course and you go through and do their multiple choice questions, that's probably going to give you the absolute best preparation possible for the exam. So I want to thank you for being with me here today. If you have questions or comments about the content, please feel free to leave a comment below, or feel free to email me at 1812cpa@gmail.com. This is the last of my series of videos for right now until I get the actual materials from the CMA Exam Academy. Once I get those, I will go through and do the unboxing. And then I'm going to go through and decide whether or not I want to become a certified management accountant. So in any event, I want to thank you for being with me here today, and I look forward to seeing you on future videos. Have a great one.